We're going?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I hope I have enough breath to get through this. I'm sorry that we've been gone so long. It's been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, we were supposed to get together last weekend and I got sick. I was sick from Friday all the way through yesterday. So I apologize for setting that back. I know a lot of people were, or some people were actually really anticipating the next thing we're going to read. The next thing from volume 5 of Teachings for Victory that we're going to be reading is the 5th Gosho, which is the bow and arrow. And the bow and arrow is on page 656 of volume 1. Okay, and the whole Gosho is right there. So I'm going to read the background from here, and then I'm going to just go straight and read everything out of here, okay? So the background's on 657, background for this Gosho called the bow and arrow. Nichiren Daishonin wrote this letter to the lay nun Toki in the 3rd month of the 2nd year of Kinji. Sorry, before I start. I have had a couple, 2, 3, 4 people write to me, and I owe you all answers. And I was going to do that in a video that I just haven't felt well enough to do. So I'll probably do that tomorrow. So AJ, the answer to you, and the 5 impurities for you, Mr. Lee, and David, I look forward to our phone call. Just everybody that I've been talking to, I'll be back in touch. I'm sorry I've been out of the loop. Let me go back to the background now, pardon me. Nichiren Daishonin wrote this letter to the lay nun Toki in the 3rd month of the 2nd year of Kinji and entrusted its delivery to her husband, Toki Jonin, who was visiting Mount Minobu at the time. Toki's mother had passed away toward the end of the 2nd month of the year. In the 3rd month, Toki carried her ashes from his home in Wakamiya, Shimosa province, to distant Minobu, where a memorial service was performed for her. From a letter the Daishonin sent to Toki 1 year earlier in 1275, it is clear that Toki's mother was over 90 years old when she died. It is thought that she had been extremely fond of her son. The contents of this letter suggest that the lay nun Toki did her best to support and assist her husband. In addition, let's remember that Toki Jonin's father was also a disciple of the Daishonin. The contents of this letter suggest that the lay nun Toki did her best to support and assist her husband. In addition, the Daishonin likens her faith to the waxing moon or the rising tide, suggesting she was diligent in her practice. He also conveys Toki's feelings regarding his mother's death, as well as his sense of gratitude toward the lay nun for her attentive care of her mother-in-law. Thus, the Daishonin compassionately encourages the lay nun Toki, which is his wife, not his mom, okay, and during her illness, which she had been battling since the previous year. It is possible that her illness was due, at least in part, to the exhausting effort of caring for her mother-in-law. The Daishonin expresses concern over her health in this letter, and in another letter sent to Toki Jonin on the 11th month of 1276, in which he writes, "I think of your wife's illness as if it were my own, and am praying to heaven day and night. Although the year of the lay nun's death is not certain, one source indicates 1303, which suggests that she was indeed able to recover and live many years longer." Okay, so from that, if you were just cruising through, writings of Nichiren Daishonin, and you read that background, or you just kind of, you would not think the depth of what I'm about to read. And this is the point I wanted to make, is that one of the other things I'll be taking up is my issues with Nichiren Shu, and why I don't believe that that's a correct perspective of the Daishonin's teachings when I do that next video. But at any rate, the thing that this lecture is going to really reveal, I want you to listen to what President Ikeda is saying as we're reading the Gosho, and then how he correlates it to daily life, to your function as a bodhisattva of the earth. This is not stuff you would be hearing from a freaking priest. Okay? To be very honest with you, they don't have a daily life where they've utilized this practice and their faith for the sake of Kosen Rufu in society, in daily life, overcoming all the things that we battle as practitioners, as lay people. Okay, so that's why we practice this Soka philosophy, or the Buddhism of the sun, and why we read Daisaku Ikeda instead of some high priest. Because the high priest has nothing to understand our life, real life, outside of the priesthood. Frankly speaking, they all come in as acolytes, right? They have no real reality as it pertains to the truth of what we go through. Okay? Yeah. So, listen to this Gosho. It's going to turn you on. This is a beautiful thing, because right now, 3 weeks ago, we saw each other. The world has completely changed in these 3 weeks. Okay? I had to deal with the devil of death last week. It wasn't me. It was my kitty again. But he almost died. I mean, it's been a really challenging time since I saw you last. We've overcome all of it through faith, through daimoku, through correct practice and emphasis in our lives on what we're trying to establish and create for ourselves and for others. Okay? So this whole thing is about the fact that in reality, there's no separation between us and anybody. Okay, so when there's a disturbance of the kind that we know is going on elsewhere in the world, where innocents they're losing their lives, they're being basically as legitimately slaughtered, okay, we can never be okay with that. I mean, that's really kind of like against our religion to be okay with that, okay? So while I'm not taking any kind of a political position on that, I'm taking the position that to kill innocent people, it's one thing when warriors fight each other. They've elected to go into battle for that purpose. But when you're killing women and children or old people, I kind of got a soft spot for the old people now. I didn't have that before. Okay? It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. No. So if you think it is, I would revisit this in front of the Gohonzon. Right. Frankly, I think you'll come to a different conclusion if you really pray about it and listen to this lecture. Because what was the last one that we just read? Without looking at the title, do you remember what the main subject of it was? Because you've said it about 10 times since then. The last Gosho lecture. Yeah, what was the point? A gathering of good friends, okay? So right now, the world could use a bunch of good friends. There's all kinds of people that really could use a good friend. And as we discussed in the last time we were together, being a good friend isn't about kissing their ass or blowing smoke and making things. It's about, again, leading into the thing that emancipates, frees their own life through the power of their own life. Okay, it's not something outside of them. It's something that they already possess. There's no one you can encourage that doesn't have the capacity to change everything in a moment, because everybody has that capacity, right? Right? Everybody with me? Yes. Okay, so let's go and see what the Daishonin has to say. He says, this is to Toki Jonin. And he's really writing to Toki's wife, who's holding down the fort so her husband can go to Minobu with his mom's ashes, all right, for some sort of consecration by the Daishonin for her next life, which wasn't really necessary, but Toki was a cool guy. And at any rate, he says, I have received 1,000 coins in a bamboo container. It is the power of the bow that determines the flight of the arrow, the might of the dragon that controls the movement of the clouds, and the strength of the wife that guides the actions of her husband. In the same way, it is your support that has enabled Toki to visit me here now. We know the fire by its smoke, discern the nature of the dragon by the rain, and recognize the wife by observing the husband. Thus, meeting here at this moment with Toki, I feel as if I were seeing you. Toki has told me that while grieved at his mother's death, he was grateful that she passed away peacefully and that you gave her such attentive care, he's saying to Toki's wife. He said joyfully that he would never be able to forget this in any lifetime to come, the impact that his wife has had on his life in helping him. He says, my greatest concern now to the lay nun Toki, the Daishonin saying, my greatest concern now is your illness, which has been lingering now for a year or so. Your mother-in-law has passed. It's time for you to get well. Fully convinced that you will recover your health. Now, what did that just say? You should continue moxibustion treatment for 3 years as regularly as if you had just begun. So what did he just now slip in as an important element of his encouragement to her?
You will get well.
You fully convinced that you will recover your health. So with doubt-free faith, your prayer is made for your recovery. Okay? You don't worry about whether or not your prayer's not going to be answered and you're going to croak. That's not the point in that kind of a circumstance. If you were to croak, now's the best time to chant sincere daimoku, not trying to hang on to this life, because it's going to go away eventually anyhow. All right? There's no merit in this lifetime that's more than any other lifetime, because we've already met the Gohonzon. So as long as we don't give in to the devilish functions that will try and keep us from expressing our Buddhahood in our present form, we really have no problems about when we die. Do you understand? So you say, fully convinced that you will recover your health, you should continue moxibustion treatment. Everybody knows what that's like, cupping, right? As regularly as if you had just begun. So he's saying, be very consistent with your diligence towards sustaining and maintaining. Don't have an attitude of complacency as it relates to your health. Okay? You've got to try and stay strong and live long for the sake of Kosen Rufu. That's really the reason. He says, even those who are free from illness cannot escape the transience of life. We don't control when we die. But if we've made those causes already, okay? He says, but if you are not old yet, and because you are a votary of the Lotus Sutra, you will not meet an untimely death. He's reassuring her, don't worry, you're not going to die. Your illness is surely not due to karma, but even if it were, you could rely on the power of the Lotus Sutra to cure it. But even if it was, you can chant Daimoku and overcome this. All right? King Ajatashatru, and now he qualifies, why can I say this with this confidence? It's already in the sutras. There are already examples of this. King Ajatashatru extended his life by 40 years by embracing the Lotus Sutra. Chen added 15 years to his life. You are a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra, and your faith is like the waxing moon or the rising tide. What does that mean? It never failing, always, ever, forever present, right? Be deeply convinced then that your illness cannot possibly persist and that your life cannot fail to be extended. So what is he really conveying more than anything else? Yeah, he's mentioned moxibustion here. But he's really saying the real key is your life condition, your conviction of faith in the power of your practice and the power of the law. He said, be deeply convinced then that your illness cannot possibly persist and that your life cannot fail to be extended. That's doubt-free faith. Okay? Cannot fail to be extended is, it doesn't matter if I die because I care about having the correct attitude to the last moment of my life. That's what will determine my life. Take care of yourself and do not burden your mind with grief. Don't be constantly thinking about bummer, downer things of failure when you're in the process of trying to overcome it through faith in the Daimoku, because if you're thinking that way, you don't have faith in your Daimoku. All right? So the minute you start thinking that way, it was just like this week with my kitty. Every time I started to try and prepare myself for his death, I had to go get rid of that thought because that shit's not happening. Now, I know this sounds like a stupid example, but I learned a lot from my cat in the last 10 months. 3 times, a correct prayer, for whatever reason, everything changed within hours. Within hours of a correct prayer. So I'm telling you, everything I'm reading here, I'm reading from the bottom of my heart. I've experienced it. I can guarantee with my parents, with everything. How you perceive, when we talk about the devil of death, we're not talking about something abstractly. Okay? It's not an entity like a devil, but it is something that is specific. Okay? That you can take aim at. That is a target to overcome, but to not be afraid of. Do you follow what I'm saying? Okay, this is what separates the bodhisattvas of the earth from the wannabes. All right? All right, so, and do not burden your mind with grief. When sorrows arise, think of Iki and Tsushima. Why is he saying that? What's Iki and Tsushima? Those were the Mongols came in on, and they got to those two islands, and they'd already killed a bunch of people. Okay. So he's saying, when you start to feel sorry for yourself, think about the people that are really suffering, not just feeling sick or feeling ill or not having enough money today. The people that are on the verge of death, on the verge of desperation, who haven't eaten for a while, who have no clean water. Okay? All right? So when sorrows arise, think of those less fortunate, is what he's saying. Think of Iki and Tsushima and of the Daizaifu office, or think of the people of Kamakura who are enjoying the delights of the heavenly realm. But when the soldiers left for Tsukushi, their parting with their wives and children who stayed behind was like bark being ripped from a tree. So what's he talking about there? He says, think of the people of Kamakura who were living peacefully with no reason to consider death being imminent or the destruction of their lives and their families being something that might happen at any point. But then as soon as they had to go fight the Mongols, everything was upside down. Suddenly, they had to leave their families. They had, just no different than what we're hearing stories of people having to leave their wives and children and then go by themselves and separate right now, right? This is exactly what he's saying. He's saying that's like the bark being ripped off of a tree. Now that, do you understand what that analogy is? What does that do? Not only is that difficult, not only is it brutal, it kills the tree, right? So that who stayed behind was like bark being ripped from a tree. They pressed their faces together and lamented while gazing into each other's eyes. This life is always temporary. Okay, when we gaze into each other's eyes and we're so in love with one another, or even if we hate each other so much, it's only for this lifetime. We'll be a different gathering of the five components in the next lifetime. We're not going to be the same people. He says, now the men gradually grow more distant, traveling through Yui Beach, Inamura, Kyoshigoe, Sakawa, and the Hakone Pass. And so, as one day passes and then another goes by, they march farther and farther away, and rivers, mountains, and clouds are interposed between them and their families. Tears accompany them, and grief is their companion. How sorrowful they must be, he's saying to Toki's wife. So he's saying again, I know you're bumming, but understand that that's something that's universal, and there are other people that are in worse shape than you are. He goes, if the Mongol armies should come and attack while they are thus lamenting, they will be taken prisoner, whether in mountains or on the sea, and will suffer misery in ships or in Korea. This is entirely because of the treatment people have accorded Nichiren, he's now saying. The votary of the Lotus Sutra who has committed no fault and is the father and mother to all living beings of Japan. Without reason, they revile and beat him and parade him through the streets. Such insanity has provoked reprimands from the 10 demon daughters, causing the present situation to arise. In addition, events that are 100,000, 10,000, million times more difficult to endure will occur in the future. You will see such miseries unfold before your eyes. And he's saying that the real reason for all of this going down is what? In that paragraph, what did he just describe? What did he just express to the lay nun to clarify it to her? This has much less to do with the Mongols invading than it has to do with the slander of the law that's been occurring in the land that we live in, and that's why it's reflecting this karma now. Okay? He says there is nothing to lament. He says, and even in the midst of this, there is nothing to lament when we consider that we will surely become Buddhas. So regardless of what we have to deal with in the Sahe world, You don't worry about it because you already know the correct teaching is going to lead to the correct practice and correct thinking and the correct life condition, which is your Buddha nature, right? Even if one were to become an emperor's consort, okay, of what use would it be? Even if one were to be reborn in heaven, what end would it serve? Instead, you will follow the way of the Dragon King's daughter and rank with the nun Mahaprajapati. How wonderful, how wonderful. Please chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo with my deep respect, Nichiren. And what did he just say in the last paragraph there? Instead, you will follow the way of the Dragon King's daughter, which is saying what? What's the way of the Dragon King's daughter?
To be a Buddha.
Yes, to express your Buddhahood in your present form.
Yeah.
All right? Okay, so then going on to the lecture on page 70. And that's why this is such a wonderful, this is all about being a really good friend. This is about encouraging other people. All right? Personal guidance is the Soka Gakkai tradition on page 70. I can still recall certain events of 1952 and 53, the year that I was born, as clearly as if they were yesterday. At that time, my mentor, Second Soka Gakkai President Josei Toda, steadfastly offered personal guidance to members day after day in the Soka Gakkai headquarters, small branch office housed in a building in Tokyo, Ichigaya area. Men and women of all sorts men and women with all sorts of problems, sickness, financial hardship, family discord, personal relationships, discrimination, bullying, came to see Mr. Toda, desperately seeking his guidance. Each person's problems were unique. With enormous patience and compassion, Mr. Toda listened to the members as they shared their situations. And he reassured them, based on his unshakable faith in the mystic law, that they could overcome their problems, transform their karma, and become happy without fail. So what did he just say? And he reassured them based on his mugiwashin, based on his doubt-free faith. You can't give encouragement of doubt-free faith to someone else if you don't have it yourself. You're bullshitter at that point. Okay? So it's again, why could President Toda give this guidance that was so effective? Because he was living in the 9 worlds as the Buddha. He had this kind of unshakable faith and his conviction of a mission for Kozen Rufu. He has founded the society, the organization, the group of individuals that will spread it throughout the world. He doesn't know that yet. But everybody he talks with the same kind of conviction that Nichiren just did as I read that Gosho. Okay? There's never a doubt in his mind about the power of the law or what you're facing in this moment being something that's leading to something that only you can overcome. That's what... Okay. And he reassured them based on his unshakable faith in the mystic law, his mugiwashi, that they could overcome their problems, they could change their karma, and in doing so transform their very lives, transform their karma, and become happy without fail. Show actual proof of Buddhahood in their present form. He encouraged each person he met, inspired them with hope, and roused them to bring forth the strength to tackle life's problems head on. His unflagging efforts to do so were a courageous attempt to respond to misfortune with the teaching of universal enlightenment expounded in the Lotus Sutra. We're all the Buddha. Once he had finished pouring his entire being into encouraging members, he drew a breath and said, I am like a single individual standing up amid a dark, swirling torrent, holding aloft a single banner. Should I relax my vigilance in the least, both I and the banner will be swept away by the surging waters. Do you understand what he just said there? What did he just say there? I, Josei Toda, will take responsibility for the accomplishment of Kozen Rufu. I'll fulfill my mission as a bodhisattva of the earth. Okay, let me read that again. I am like a single individual standing up amid a dark, swirling torrent. What did Daishonin just say? Okay, holding aloft a single banner. What did I just read to you? He wrote to Toki Jonin's mom. Should I relax my vigilance in the least, both I and the banner will be swept away by the surging waters. That's the whole emphasis. That's the whole message from Nichiren as it relates to Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. And each one of us, that's what President Toda is trying to convey. The Soka Gakkai exists today because of this great champion of Kosen Rufu, one guy's Ichinin. Founding Soka Gakkai president Tanesaburo Makaguchi also gave top priority to personal guidance. The twice weekly sessions he conducted either at the Soka Gakkai headquarters or in his own home, during which he met and spoke with members, encouraging them wholeheartedly to put Buddhism into practice in their lives, were just one example of that. The humanistic spirit of valuing each individual is the summation of Buddhism, which means we can't have war killing people like this. Okay? The humanistic spirit of valuing each individual is a summation of Buddhism and the spirit that is the hallmark of the Soka Gakkai. I, Daisaku Ikeda, completely affirm this. In both my direct encounters with others and through letters and responses to reports and activity updates from members, I have dedicated my entire life to encouraging people, viewing each encounter as a unique and precious opportunity that I cannot allow to slip by. One-to-one dialogue and one-to-one encouragement, those in fact are the essence of the philosophy in Buddhism and the core spirit of all religion. So what did that just say? I'm really happy that we're all able to share this together and we're able to talk and have it recorded, and other people are able to share what's being said as we read from President Ikeda. But he says, again, let me read this. Think about it. In both my direct encounters with others and through letters and responses to reports and activity updates from members, I have dedicated my entire life to encouraging people, viewing each encounter as a unique and precious opportunity that I cannot allow to slip by. One-to-one dialogue and one-to-one encouragement, those in fact are the essence of the philosophy in Buddhism and the core spirit of all religion. So what he's saying there is that, frankly speaking, this isn't about what I have to say in a lecture written in a book. This is about how I hope all of you will conduct yourselves in your daily life, connecting with other human beings and conveying the essence of this Buddhism with your life, because it's not conveyed through books. It's conveyed through the behavior of the human beings that utilize it. He says, I completely affirm this, one-to-one. That's why when we first started doing these, I was very reluctant because, this really, my training was I shouldn't be doing this to people that can't talk back to me. Okay? That's why I appreciate the people that write, and I apologize. I haven't been able to answer you specifically yet, but I shall. But the bottom line is that what this is saying then is what? The humanistic spirit of valuing each individual is the summation of Buddhism, and the spirit is the hallmark of the Soka Gakkai. It's all about one-to-one, one-to-one. So what is that saying? It's not enough for me to talk to you guys or people to listen to me talk and read what Daisaku Ikeda read. We all have to behave this way to create this intricate web of support for the difficult mission of Kosen Rufu that we're all saying with our mouths we're trying to accomplish. Okay? So these are the actions of a bodhisattva of the earth, frankly speaking. All right? In both my direct encounters with others and through letters and responses, one-to-one dialogue and one-to-one encouragement, those are in fact the essence of the philosophy of Buddhism and the core spirit of all religion. I am reminded, continues, I'm reminded of the daily actions of Mahatma Gandhi. Now here again, he's talking about Mahatma Gandhi, who was a Hindu, okay? But his action as a human being is what he's drawing relevance to. I am reminded of the daily actions of Mahatma Gandhi in his struggle for Indian independence. Gandhi devoted a large part of each day to dealing with the steady stream of problems and worries presented to him by ordinary people. On an average day, for instance, he might offer advice on securing a healthy diet for farm villagers, comfort someone who had lost a beloved family member, give guidance to a young woman about finding a husband, and encouraging someone who was sick. In addition to writing or dictating an astonishing numbers of letters, each day he met with many visitors, encouraged them, and offered them his advice and support. And what did that just tell us then? He uses Gandhi as an example. But what is the behavior that he focused on of Gandhi's is he telling us to emulate? What is his point? His point is for us to lead. All of this has been about leading. I don't know if you understand that. Okay? So he's saying, lead. You've got to lead people to be a bodhisattva of the earth. Bodhisattvas of the earth are not interested in their own Buddhahood. That's already assured if they're a bodhisattva of the earth. Bodhisattvas of the earth make their advent for the sake of propagating the law and planting seeds and enabling others to achieve the same life state as they have, right? He says, okay, he continues. On page 71, first column. One of Gandhi's biographers famously said that the Indian leader, notice he said the Indian leader, that's why I said lead. He cared for one little person in the midst of his cares for the whole nation. Responding to people's problems and worries, which to many may have seemed mundane, everyday affairs, was something that Gandhi could not overlook. Indeed, it was a matter of the greatest importance and interest to him. Gandhi knew that the key to independence and autonomy for India as a nation was for each individual to remain unbowed by life's problems, courageously overcoming them and attaining independence and victory in life. Continuing, middle of page 71, first column. Transforming society through transforming ourselves and our lives. So what was that just talking about? What's that talking about? What is that talking about? Transforming society through transforming ourselves and our lives. The reason I ask these questions is I want you guys to understand what's really being said here. The same thing is being said over and over and over again using different words. The same message though. And that's why when I ask the question, you should know immediately what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's something wrong if you don't, but I want to make sure you know what he's saying here. What is transforming society through transforming ourselves and our lives? Kosen Rufu. Okay, that's what he's talking about. That's how it occurs. How does Kosen Rufu occur? By getting everybody in the world to become a member of SGI? No. By transforming our lives. So what's the transforming involve? Becoming the Buddha in our present form. Okay, and through that, we change not only ourselves, our environment also reflects that change. It's impossible not to lead other people to Buddhahood if you're the Buddha.
Right.
Impossible. Okay, so if you have the compassion, bring forth your ultimate state. He says the real test of a system of thought is whether it offers a way to deal directly with the inner problems we encounter in our struggles with life's countless ups and downs, a method to solve them, and a way to transform our actions and the reality of our daily lives. Wow, what did that just say? The real test of a system of thought, the real test of whether or not a religion or a philosophy has any validity, is whether or not it has a way to deal with your problems so that they're mitigated and they're not problems anymore. Okay? The real test of a system of thought is whether it offers a way to deal directly, not, priest, can you pray for me? Teacher, tell me what to do. Okay? a way to deal directly with inner problems, because how many people actually ever revealed their real inner problems? You're too scared to let anybody know that they exist, right? Okay, so you've got to have something like the Gonzon to pull this off. It won't happen otherwise. With inner problems we encounter in our struggles with life's ups and downs. What are life's ups and downs? Our karma. Our karma. All right? A method to solve them, which we have, and a way to transform our actions and the reality of our daily lives. To quit doing the things that are creating problems, to start doing the things that create solutions. All right? Gandhi said, I can indicate no royal road for bringing about the social revolution, except that we should represent it in every detail of our lives. What does that say? I'm sorry I keep saying it. What does that say? But I want you to... Gandhi, he's still going back to Gandhi now, just using, again, this guy's a Hindu. He's not a Nichiren Buddhist, but it's his actions that he's referring to, not his life philosophy. Gandhi said, I can indicate no royal road for bringing about the social revolution, except that we should represent it in every detail of our lives. It's not about words. It's not about concepts. It's about behavior. That's where the social revolution will come from. Not from another guy that can talk smarter or better than the next guy or has more attractive answers. It's the effect that those things have on others. What does it do for them? How does it advance them rather than the person speaking? Okay? He says, the true essence of religion lies in enabling individuals to realize a transformation in their hearts and in their actual lives. That's my biggest problem with Christianity. I was around it my whole life. I went to church with my family and everybody else was there with their family. And I wasn't seeing much correlation of that, okay? Which made me have some questions. The true essence of a religion lies in enabling individuals to change their karma and reflect that change in their life. That's why it's called transformation. They're no longer who they had been, okay, in their hearts and in their actual lives. That's called the proof of actual fact. The only way, then, President Cada continues in that paragraph on the top of the second column on 71, the only way to truly transform society, to establish the correct teaching for the peace of the land, is for all individuals to work through the process of confronting their actual problems in life and to transform their life conditions. Oh my God. How deep was that? What did he just say? The only way, and then he emphasizes to truly transform society rather than happy talk it to death like people have been doing for centuries already, to establish this correct teaching that will enable anyone to bring forth their highest state for the peace of the land, is for all individuals to work through the process, because it is a process of confronting their actual problems in life to transform their life conditions. What was that? To do human revolution. Yeah, to do Kosen Rufu. But to do Kosen Rufu, we have to become the Buddha in our present form. To become the Buddha in our present form is to do human revolution. That's what we're talking about when we talk about human revolution. It's not learning to like spinach when you really hate spinach. That's not human revolution. Human revolution is learning to be the Buddha exactly as you are, exactly as who you are. Okay? All right, so is for all individuals to work through the process of confronting their actual problems in life, confronting their actual problems in life. That means not ignoring them, not wishing them away, not waiting for them to change without doing anything to change them. All right. Confronting means to take them head on. It means to acknowledge them. It means to decide, I'm going to change. I'm going to make things different for myself. Okay, and to transform their life conditions, because this happens from the transformation of your life condition. That's where you get the strength and the wisdom to accomplish that. Okay, individual encouragement then is the great path that opens the way to human revolution, which is the starting point toward that goal. I couldn't talk to you had I not had people talk to me the way I'm talking to you. Okay, my mentors spoke with the same conviction. Okay, again, individual encouragement is the great path that opens the way to human revolution. Which is the starting point toward that goal. Now, what did he also just say in that one sentence? Individual encouragement is the great path that opens the way to human revolution, which is the starting point toward that goal. So the starting point toward that goal is for all people to become Buddhists, right? That's what the previous paragraph just said, right? Okay. Now, that individual encouragement is the great path that opens the way to human revolution. So what did he saying there? Individual encouragement is a part of the process of the mentor and disciple relationship. Okay? Individual encouragement is the great path. You having a connection to somebody that's opening the door so that you can walk through, so that you can open the door, so somebody can walk through, so they can open the door, so somebody can walk through. This is always a pay it forward type of thing. We get shakabuku and then we do shakabuku, right? Okay, so individual encouragement is the great path that opens the way to Buddhahood, to human revolution. All right? The mentor-disciple relationship is the great path that opens the way to Buddhahood, is what that first sentence is saying, which is the starting point towards this goal of everybody else being Buddhas as well. Do you understand? All right. So in this chapter, we will study the bow and arrow, which illustrates Nichiren Daishonin's spirit to warmly encourage his followers. Since it is a short letter, we will study the entire text. All right. Everybody's with me. Page 71. Here we go. Yes. I have received 1,000 praised for the lay nun Toki's efforts. I have received 1,000 coins in a bamboo container. It is the power of the bow that determines the flight of the arrow, the might of the dragon that controls the movement of the clouds, and the strength of the wife that guides the actions of her husband. In the same way, it is your support that has enabled Toki to visit me here now. We know the fire by its smoke, discern the nature of the dragon by the rain, and recognize the wife by observing her husband. Thus, meeting here at this moment with Toki, I feel as if I were seeing you. Toki has told me that while grieved at his mother's death, he was grateful that she passed away peacefully and that you gave her such attentive care. He said joyfully that he would never be able to forget this in any lifetime to come. This letter was written, going into the lecture from President Ikeda, this letter was written in March 1276 to the lay nun Toki, who lived in Shimosa province. In a letter addressed to her husband Toki Jonin, a year earlier, the Daishonin had offered his thanks for the gift of a robe lovingly and painstakingly sewn by Toki Jonin's 90-year-old mother. In the present letter, we learn that the mother has since died and that Toki Jonin has visited the Daishonin on Mount Minobu with her ashes. Apparently, Toki Jonin spoke of his mother's final moments and shared other family news with Nichiren at that time. Nichiren entrusted this letter to him to carry back to his wife. The Daishonin begins, it is the power of the bow that determines the flight of the arrow, the might of the dragon that controls the movements of the clouds, and the strength of the wife that guides the actions of her husband. Employing the accessible metaphors of a bow and arrow, a dragon and clouds, the latter smoke and fire and rain, and later smoke and fire and rain, and a dragon, employing accessible metaphors of a bow and arrow, a dragon and clouds, and later smoke and fire and rain and a dragon, The Daishonin praises the lay nun Toki for sending her husband Toki Jonin to visit him. His profound compassion and deep concern for the lay nun Toki is clearly evident here. Nichiren is not reaffirming gender differences or roles. Okay? As he writes this in 13th century Japan, he's never talking about, you're the wife, you're a female.
Right.
No. Lay nun, lay priest, man, woman, you need both of them for life. Nichiren is not reaffirming gender differences or roles. He is speaking specifically of the relationship between the lay nun Toki and her husband Toki Jonin, offering them concrete encouragement suited to them. Excuse me. To another couple, he would no doubt offer another form of encouragement. This is specific to them. The more important point here is that he not only encourages the person he is addressing, but also always directs his compassionate gaze to the individual or individuals who are supporting that person behind the scenes. He expresses even deeper appreciation for the latter in providing assistance, because he knows they don't get the benefit of sitting down with him. But without their efforts, the person that's there, he could not convey this life to life that he's counting on them to convey life to life. That's the point. The reality we can see, because again, otherwise he'd just have written a bunch of letters. You just write it all down. You just read it. That's all you need to do is read it. No, it's faith. And faith is not conveyed in writing. It isn't. It's conveyed by action. It's conveyed by conviction, icon. It's conveyed in a number of ways that are not written. All right? The reality we can see only exists because of the numerous unseen factors unfolding in the background. The Daishonin could see the presence of the lay nun Toki behind Toki Jonin, which is why he says that Toki Jonin is visiting him because of his wife, and in seeing Toki Jonin, he also sees his wife. The lay nun Toki must have been moved and reassured to learn that her teacher was aware of her efforts. The art of, top of page 73, the art of encouragement can change the world. Okay, and so what is he saying there?
It takes different skills.
You have to, okay, yeah. Encouragement takes you really giving a shit. Yeah. You know, you can't just start talking and saying what you think and expounding your wisdom. That doesn't do any good if it's not geared towards and actually encouraging the individual you're speaking to. So the point is to always understand what you're doing, which is to try to encourage them to get back to the Gohonzon to bring forth their own wisdom. There's an art in doing that. You've got to utilize stories about yourself to make them acknowledge and laugh about the things they know are true about them, so that you can peacefully, happily take them out of this sense of despair or anxiety and fill them with the confidence that the Daimoku will play off of, and their faith will be revitalized, and they can chant with the Daimoku necessary to actually get a result. The art of encouragement can change the world. Now, what is that saying then? Kosen Rufu depends on this.
Right.
Kosen Rufu depends on this. Nichiren also shares with the lay nun that her husband had told him how deeply grateful he was for the assiduous care that she had devoted to his mother in her final days. Thank you, dear. Thank you. My wife also did that for my parents. Many Japanese men, even today, have a hard time directly expressing their gratitude to their wives, no matter how heartfelt it may be. This passage embodies the Daishonin's great compassion for the couple. The concrete manifestation of Buddhist humanism is just such sensitive, caring concern and warm encouragement. Advancing Kosen Rufu in an age when human ties are growing increasingly tenuous, means employing the art of encouragement and creating a truly humanistic and harmonious society where each person is valued and their dignity respected. This is my unwavering conviction. We're never giving guidance to people that are less than us. We're always giving guidance to people that are equal to us, and we're endeavoring to bring them about. We already know their baseline is not below ours. We don't view them for the problems they have in this moment. We view them from the victory we know we're going to do our best to help them achieve. Okay? That's how we view them. So he's saying here, employing the art of encouragement and creating a truly humanistic and harmonious society where each person is valued and their dignity respected. So what is that basically saying, though? We can't do Kosen Rufu if we really don't feel that way about other people. If Kosen Rufu is a name for people that chant, rather than the acknowledgement of humanity itself, we're missing the point. Okay? We're creating our own little club that's exclusive from everybody else that's not in our club. And that's not absolute myo. That's relative myo. I got news for you. And we don't do relative myo. That's for comparative purposes. We live absolute myo. That's the Buddha. All right? So, continuing on page 73, confidence and determination. Going back to the Gosho, my greatest concern now is your illness, Toki, lay nun Toki. Fully convinced that you will recover your health, you should continue moxibustion treatment for 3 years as regularly as if you had just begun. Don't get lazy. Even those who are free from illness cannot escape the transience of life. But you are not yet old, and because you are a votary of the Lotus Sutra, you will not meet an untimely death. Your illness is surely not due to karma, but even if it were, you could rely on the power of the Lotus Sutra to cure it. And when he says you could rely on the power of the Lotus Sutra to cure it, what is he saying? Your daimoku. You could rely on the power of your chanting the daimoku to cure it. He's not saying rely on the 28 chapter Lotus Sutra that's no longer it's the pure law. We're doing the great pure law now. So understand again, every time he says the power of the Lotus, he's talking about the power of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay? King Ajatasattu, continuing, extended his life by 40 years by embracing Lotus Sutra. Chen added 15 years to his life. You are a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra, and your faith is like the waxing moon or the rising tide. Be deeply convinced then that your illness cannot possibly persist and that your life cannot fail to be extended. Take care of yourself and do not burden your mind with grief. Okay. What time did we start? Where are we at? How far into this? Are we at an hour already?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. Do you mind if we go to maybe an hour 20? Because it's going to take me that long, or we're going to stop now and have to come back next
30
week.
more minutes.
You want to go ahead and do it, or stop now and come back next week?
We won't be here next week.
Okay, then let's thank you. Good. Then I can continue. That was really what I was hoping somebody would say. No, go, Dad. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. In his copy of the King Ajatasattu, and take care of yourself and do not burden your mind with grief. Okay, in his copy of Nichiren's writings, Mr. Makaguchi wrote in the margin of this particular letter, encouraging those who are ill. This section is indeed Nichiren Daishonen's encouragement for the sick, brimming with deep compassion. He wrote another letter to her too, on prolonging one's lifespan, in which he expresses his deep concern for her health, the lay nun Toki Jonen's wife. Through her illness, he must have left her, though her illness must have left her exhausted and mentally fatigued. The lay nun had continued to support her husband and nurse her mother-in-law. No doubt busy with these tasks, she may have neglected to pay attention to getting herself well. She may have even begun to feel that she might not recover at all. Addressing this anxiety, the Daishonin encourages her by stressing the absolute power of the mystic law. He sought to rouse in her both the confidence that she would get better and the determination to do so without fail. Okay? It's win, because it's win or lose. You're going to win. At the same time, the Daishonin didn't take her protracted illness lightly. Now that her days of devoted nursing her mother-in-law were over, he saw that it was time for her to concentrate on her own health, urging her to be fully convinced of her recovery and to continue treatment for 3 years. Here, we can sense that Daishonin's tough love as he urges her to get serious about battling her illness. So again, he's giving her a little bit of a direct, hard guidance, okay, that President Kate is referring to as tough love. But when we're trying to help someone, we have to have the compassion to not bullshit them or go light or candy coat something that, wow, I know how I learned it was painful. It's probably going to be painful for you. Listen to me, okay? That's the only way I know to do it. You know, you can try and talk in metaphors and make it easier for people to accept. But if they don't get what you're saying, what did you do for them? You really made them think that you were doing something for them, and you really didn't do anything. There's nothing that they can take back if you hold back. Okay? They don't get better by candy coating things or by happy talk. So he's saying, where am I? Living wisely and enjoying a long, healthy, and fulfilling life. Nietzsche, in the middle of page 74, Nietzsche also reminds the lay nun twice that she is a votary or a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra. Citing, and again, practitioner, not a believer, a practitioner. That's what makes her a votary. All right? Citing the examples of King Ajatasattu and the great teacher Tintai's older brother Chen Chen, he assures her that a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra will never be defeated by the devil of illness. Those who have dedicated themselves to the great mission of propagating the Lotus Sutra will never be defeated in life, he tells her. Okay, and what did he just say here? He assures her that a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra will never be defeated by the devil of illness. Does that mean that they'll never die? No, they'll never be defeated by the devil of illness, which means they'll never have an untimely death, which is not the time yet for them to go. All right? He's saying those who have dedicated themselves to the great mission of propagating the Lotus Sutra will never be defeated in life, no matter when they die. That's the point. He tells her. And what is this from? That's Mugi Washi. Again, that's doubt-free faith. They will never, ever get the short end of this. It's not about the day you die. It's how you lived your life. He adds, be deeply convinced then that your illness cannot possibly persist and that your life cannot fail to be extended. What is that? Mugi Washin while you're chanting Daimoku to the Gohonzon. You're not worrying about dying. You're relying that your faith is going to protect you from that. Your prayer is the understanding that if that should not be the case, you have no problem with it. Because that's the appropriate time for you to leave this Sahe world. Okay? Right? Everybody's with me.
Yeah.
Okay. He adds, be deeply convinced then that your illness cannot possibly persist and that your life cannot fail to be extended. Take care of yourself and do not burden your mind with grief. Being depressed is not the way to have the life condition you need to have in front of the Gohonzon. This is important guidance for living wisely and enjoying a long, healthy, and fulfilling life. The first point is be deeply convinced. We know that as Mugi Washin, right? The mystic law has infinite power. So we should have the unshakable conviction, which is Mugi Washin, doubt-free faith. We should have the unshakable conviction that we can overcome our problems and that we will definitely be protected. That's doubt-free faith. We mustn't allow our illness to dampen our spirits, to rob us of that doubt-free faith, or to diminish it. In that crucial moment, it's the most important time to have it. The second point is take care of yourself. It's crucial to lead a well-balanced and disciplined life. Sometimes we don't learn this until later in life, unfortunately, but it's the truth. We may want to ignore our own health concerns, but it is important to protect ourselves by tackling problems as they arise. Why? If we don't do that, we may end up, by our own actions, shorten our life. And what would that do? That would diminish the amount of time we have in this world to contribute to Kosen Rufu. So it's important that we live as long as we can, regardless of what it takes to do that, for the sake of the law. Do you understand? It's not cool that we know we're going to go to Ku and go to the ninth consciousness and I could give a no, I have to pray to continue to put up with this shit because I'm supposed to be here doing it until I'm not anymore. Okay? So, tackling, but it's important to protect ourselves by tackling problems as they arise. And the third point is do not burden your mind with grief. It doesn't accomplish a freaking thing. It's important to live wisely with a strong positive attitude and to refrain from negativity and needless fretting and complaining. With this encouragement, the lay nun Toki exerted herself in Buddhist practice, ultimately gaining the benefit of prolonging her life for many more years. Once a young man visited Mr. Toad to ask for advice about his seriously ill mother back home, who was also a Soka Gakkai member. After hearing him out, Mr. Toda said, I see. In that case, write down these words in a letter to her. 1, your illness will be cured without fail if you chant to the Gohonzon. 2, chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and persist in your faith. And 3, life is eternal, so put your mind at ease and concentrate on your recovery. Don't worry about what's going to happen if I die. Okay? 3, life is eternal. So put your mind at ease and concentrate on your recovery. Mr. Toda then signed his name to the letter. The mother was deeply moved when she read it, and her son later reported that she eventually recovered to the point where she could once again walk short distances. Naturally, in the case of illness, seeking the best medical treatment should also always go hand in hand with a strong practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. You don't sit there and do gongyo. Don't go to the doctor for 5 months and then find out you have stage 5 liver cancer, like my brother Renee. Okay? You use the mind that you were born with. You go see professional help. You do everything you can to preserve and sustain your life. Right? There's no Gosho that says from the Daishonin where he just says, just chant Daimoku, that's all you got to do.
Or give the money to the priest.
No, not one. Here he's saying, do moxibustion for 3 years and don't miss a day. He's saying all kinds of additional stuff besides just chant. All right? So he says, again, naturally, in case of illness, seeking the best treatment, where am I? Yeah. Naturally, in the case of illness, seeking the best medical treatment should also go hand in hand with a strong practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. It is my dearest wish and prayer that all of our members will live wisely and make health their top priority. President Kate has been a perfect example of that for us. Okay? He quit smoking a long time ago. Don't know how everybody knows he smoked for a long, long time. Did you know that? No. All of us used to do things that we don't do anymore. Empathy and concern for others, page 75. Going back to the Gosho. When sorrows arise, think of Iki and Tsushima and of the Dasaifu office. Or think of the people of Kamakura who were enjoying the delights of the heavenly realm, but when the soldiers left for Tsukushi, they're parting with their wives and children who stayed behind was like bark being ripped from a tree. They pressed their faces together and lamented while gazing into each other's eyes. Now the men gradually grow more distant, traveling through Yui Beach, Inamura, Koshigoe, Sakawa, and Hakone Pass. And so, as one day passes and then another goes by, they march farther and farther away, and the rivers, mountains, and clouds are interposed between them and their families. Tears accompany them, and their grief and grief is their companion. How sorrowful they must be. Top of page 75, second column. And I have like 7 stars around this, so it must be important. There are events in life that are so painful, they exhaust our tears. Okay? So what does that say? The fact that we practice this Buddhism will not change the reality of that aspect of life. That there will be events that are so painful that we will have tears that we cry and cry and cry over, okay? There is sadness that cannot be extinguished. There is grief so overwhelming that we cannot keep it inside. There may be times when, though we usually manage to hold ourselves together and go on with our lives, we cannot stop the tears from flowing. And surviving life's travails often means coming to terms with loss and sorrow. So why did Daisaku Ikeda stick that paragraph in there? To let you know that when you're a human being, when you're being a human being, when you've lost someone you love as much as a parent, and it affects you the way that it does, nothing wrong with that. That's nothing wrong with that. He's saying that's normal. That's normal. Expect that. Don't let that discourage you. Don't let that throw you off course. Know that there will be a better day. There will come a time when you'll stop crying. There will come a time that even though that pain is still there, if you think about it, you don't think about it so much anymore. Right? Though she put on a brave face, the lay nun Toki must inwardly have been very anxious about her lingering illness. The Daishonin wrote in such a way as to free her from that burden. At the time, the threat of the second Mongol invasion hung over Japan, and memories of the bitter battle fought during the first invasion 2 years earlier were still fresh in people's minds. In addition, many would have witnessed soldiers bidding farewell to their families before being dispatched to defend the countries against another invasion. Through these examples, the Daishonin is teaching the lay nun that sorrow is common to all human beings. It's important to note that the Daishonin's message isn't simply, there are those worse off than you, or you have it easy. What he is saying to the lay nun is, you may have been feeling rather disconsolate and alone, is you are not the only one who is suffering. Always remember that. As much as you might be suffering at any moment, we have videos right now on the internet of people that like 2 weeks ago had no clue they were going to be in the situation they're in now. All right? By drawing her attention to the plight of others, he seeks to alleviate her pain and turn her gaze outward. He is trying to teach her the spirit of empathy. That is, recognize and sharing the sufferings of others. And what happens when you do that? When you recognize and share the sufferings of others, what are you expressing?
Wisdom.
That's what it turns into. You're expressing compassion. Right. And compassion always becomes wisdom. Okay? So that's why there's something in it for you. Okay? It's not as though you're being selfless in being this encouraging individual. When you have the ability to feel other people's suffering, right, you're having empathy. That empathy is compassion for them, and that will afford you an ability to provide yourself with a reward of clarity. Watch. That's the way it'll work out. All right? So he says, that is recognizing and sharing the sufferings of others, page 75. Page 76, first column, opening life's infinite potential. I am reminded of the story of one of Shakyamuni's followers, Kisa Gautami. Okay, good. I really need to go to the restroom. May I?
Sure.
May I? Excuse me.
I'll make it quick as I can.
2礼拜，我如果暂停，大家就不会连了。
那就这样子啊。
哦，等一下，这个影片里面缩短吗？
等一下应该是，如果说你要修改，
你要剪片吗？
可以，把中间剪掉一样。
其实也没关系的。实境秀。实境秀吗？老师也是要上厕所。
好像可以把中间的那个剪掉。
应该是可以的。
可以啊，我记得可以。
直接这样操作吗？还是？
应该是在上传之前再
对，上传之前。
对啊，上传之前要把它剪掉。
如果我再重新把两个连成一只的话，那个头的大小就不一样。
就不一样，
嗯
对。
所以等一下试试看，用剪的。
就是大概知道说大概在几分左右这样。
对呀、
然后如果有人这个时候出来看直播，哎，今天怎么搞的？没声音了。天，好吃耶，好好吃哦。麻辣天，吃了4个，
是啊。
好好吃哦。
就新鲜的。
好大颗哦，天啊！
对啊。
I am so sorry, man. I tried.
No
I did my best. I did my best. I couldn't have made it. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Top page 76. Opening life's infinite potential. I reminded of the story of one of Shakyamuni's followers, Kisa Gotami. Living in poverty, Kisa Gotami first lost her husband, and then death robbed her of her beloved child as well. In grief and despair, carrying her dead child's body in her arms, she wandered through her town, begging for someone to bring her child back to life. Eventually, she encountered Shakyamuni. The Buddha said that he would do as she wished if she could go to town and bring him back a mustard seed. He added an important condition. The mustard seed must be from a family in which no one had died. Kisa Gotami began to search, calling on one house after another. Several families had a mustard seed, but in each family someone had died. All the families had experienced the grief of losing a loved one. Finally, it dawned on Kisa Gotami she was not alone in experiencing the grief and pain of death. The spirit of empathy awakens us to the fact that we are not alone, inspiring us to broaden our concern for others. With the Daishonen's encouragement echoing in her heart, the Lei Nun Toki was no doubt able to use her suffering to expand her life condition. The point is, none of us is free of the sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death, nor should we expect to be. Okay? At the same time, each of us possesses the Buddha nature, the infinite potential within life that enables us to fundamentally overcome that suffering. Okay? So we're guaranteed that suffering, but we're also given the means to have it not be suffering. The events are the same. The effect on our life is what's different. Do you understand? Compassionate action to save all living beings. Continuing from the Gosho, middle of page 76, second column. If the Mongol army should come and attack while they are thus lamenting, they will be taken prisoner. He's talking about the husbands of the left. Whether in the mountains or on the sea, and will suffer misery in ships or in Korea. This is entirely because of the treatment people have accorded Nichiren, the votary of the Lotus Sutra, who has committed no fault, and his father and mother, to all the living beings of Japan. Without reason, they revile and beat him and parade him through the streets. Such insanity has provoked reprimands from the 10 demon daughters, causing the present situation to arise. In addition, events that are 100,000, 10,000, million times more difficult to endure will occur in the future. You will see such mysteries unfold before your eyes. Bottom of page 76, second column. Oh, God. The most frightening aspect of war is its horrendous brutality. It sweeps ordinary people up in a maelstrom of violence and bloodshed and plunges them into the depths of misery, even if they individually wish for peace. In this passage, Nichiren Daishonin highlights the root cause of this madness afflicting society. Essentially, it lay in the fundamental error committed by the ruling authorities and the general populace. That is, the Daishonin, as the votary of the Lotus Sutra, taught people that they all possess the supremely noble Buddha nature. He sought to establish the correct teaching for the peace of the land. Yet though he championed this cause for the highest good, the ruling military authorities were hell-bent on destroying him, while the ordinary people in society either looked on or joined in attacking him out of ignorance. In this letter, the Daishonin warns that because their actions constitute slander of the law, the people of Japan will invariably meet with even greater calamity in the future. Further, in describing himself as the father and mother to all the living beings of Japan, the Daishonin reveals that he possesses the virtue of the parent, one of the three virtues. Here we can keenly sense the Daishonin's ardent wish as the Buddha of the latter day of the law to enable all living beings to attain enlightenment, to be equal to him, to be equal to him. This passage embodies the Daishonin's profound concern over the steadily approaching shadow of war and his earnest cry for realizing peace and happiness for the people, establishing the correct teaching for the peace of the land. Top of page 77, second column. Lives of triumph that rise above all suffering. What's that describe? Huh? Lives of triumph that rise above all suffering. What's that describing?
Buddhahood.
Each one of you, each one of us should have lives of triumph that rise above all suffering. That's what this is all about. There, from the Gosho, there is nothing to lament when we consider that we will surely become Buddhas. And say that again. The Daishonin saying to her, as he would say to you and me right now, there is nothing to lament. There's nothing to be bummed out, scared of, worry about, nothing. But when we consider that we will surely, that's Mugiwashi, we will surely become Buddhas. Even if we were to become an emperor's consort, of what use would it be? Even if we were to be reborn in heaven, what end would it serve? Instead, you will follow the way of the Dragon King's daughter and rank with the nun Mahaprajapati. How wonderful, how wonderful. Please chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with my deep respect, Nichiren. Here, page 77, we're just about done. Second column, middle of second column. Here, Nichiren continues to encourage the lay nun, assuring her to the effect, we cannot fail to attain Buddhahood. No matter how painful things are now, we are certain to triumph in the end. We will enjoy ourselves freely in the realm of life that is eternal throughout the three existences of past, present, and future. When you are sure of that, what reason do you have to lament? Even, again, when you're sure of that. So once again, it comes back to doubt-free faith. Comes back to faith. All right? Even should one become an imperial consort and enjoy all the glory and splendor of that position, it will be but the joy of one fleeting existence. Even should one be reborn in the realm of heavenly beings, one cannot escape the impermanence of the cycle of birth and death in the six paths, right? The six lower realms, the heavenly beings. However, as a person who chants Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and strives as a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra, you will follow the footsteps. And how do we practice the Lotus Sutra? We chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and strive to be of the same mind of Nichiren and achieve Kosen Rufu. You will follow in the footsteps of the Dragon King's daughter, who opened the way to enlightenment for all women and attain Buddhahood without fail. You and yourself attain Buddhahood without fail. We can do it. Anybody can do it. It's not difficult. I shouldn't say that. It takes a great amount of effort, but it's very doable.
Yes.
It will also be comparable to the nun Mahepra Prajapati, Shakyamuni's stepmother and first female follower, who the Lotus Sutra promises will attain enlightenment as the Buddha gladly seen by all living beings. Therefore, there is nothing to fear. Just live out your life with confidence. The Daishonin's encouragement is a deeply moving expression of his wish to dispel the anxiety plaguing the lay nun Toki's heart and free her from sorrow. And the words, how wonderful, articulate the joy one experiences when one emerges from the depths of sorrow to savor a state of being where all clouds have disappeared and one's heart is serene like a clear blue sky. It is a state of hope, optimism, and delight. There may be difficult and painful events in the course of one's life, but those who remain steadfast in their practice of the mystic law need never get stuck in and sink in the mire of suffering. Instead of remaining depressed and sad, their spirits become buoyant and their hearts light as they look to the future. The key is to resonantly chant with joy and courage. I'll read it again. The key is to resonantly chant with joy and courage. So what is that saying?
That's doubt-free faith.
The lives of those who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo embody the principle. Stop it. The lives of those who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo embody the principle of earthly desires leading to enlightenment. They are already victorious. They have triumphed, rising above all suffering. Let me read that paragraph again. The key is to resonantly chant with joy and courage. So what did that just say? That's the key.
Doubt-free faith?
Yeah. Yes, that's the life condition you would have with doubt-free faith. But he's basically saying when you're in front of the Gohonzon, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho. It's your life condition, resonantly. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. You hear me chant, man, that's resonantly, okay? And with joy and courage, you're going to win, and you're not afraid to go prove it. You'll do whatever it takes. You're already victorious. That's exactly what he's saying. When you're like this, you already won.
Yes.
All right? The key is to resonantly chant with joy and courage. The lives of those who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo embody the principle of earthly desires leading to enlightenment. They are already victorious. They have triumphed, rising above all suffering. They've attained Buddhahood in their present form. Mr. Toda often said that the essence of guidance is encouragement. The essence of guidance is encouragement. He continued to encourage those who came to see him for guidance until they had roused the courage to stand up and face life's challenges again. Okay? Guidance isn't telling people what to do. It's giving them the courage to face what they have to. Period. Encouragement in Buddhism is not just a matter of offering words of sympathy or comfort. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Okay? It's bringing forth the Buddha nature that's there because you know it's there. The person that's talking to you doesn't feel it. They don't think it's there. That's why they're in a state of despair. Okay? You're going to help by sharing from your life to let them not be afraid for their life to be seen and to deal with it. Encouragement in Buddhism is not a matter of offering words of sympathy or comfort. It is the earnest effort to awaken a person's inner Buddha nature. That is why Mr. Toda remained concerned until each member received a positive outcome, encouraging other members to continually support and encourage the person. He kept on encouraging each person with the ardent wish that each would experience the joy and good fortune of practicing Nichiren Buddhism. And he rejoiced when members awoke to their Buddha nature, showed their determination not to be defeated, and won in their daily lives. Nichiren Buddhism teaches us how to achieve lives of supreme victory as experts in the art of happiness. Bottom of page 78, second column, striving with unflagging optimism. What is unflagging optimism? That's an optimism that is never diminishing. You can't hit it with enough mud for any of the mud to stick. Do you understand? Unflagging is do your worst. I don't care. I'm going to go right through you. Okay? That's unflagging. Cannot be stopped. Striving with unstoppable optimism is what that's saying. In Mr. Toda's example and his faith in others' limitless potential and his faith in their ability to do these things, they didn't think they could. He only knew that they could because he'd done it, because he'd gone through prison and he'd done it. He knew they could do it because he'd done it. You'll know you can do it because you've done it. In Mr. Toda's example and his faith in others' limitless potential is referring to Buddhahood. I perceive the essence of the unflagging optimism that is the vital spirit of Nichiren Buddhism. Mahatma Gandhi said, I remain an optimist, not that there is any evidence that I can give that right is going to prosper, but because in my unflinching faith that right must prosper in the end. And it must, and it always does. If you live to be as old as I am, you'll see this as a truth. This is just, evil always loses to good.
Always.
Why? Because it's evil. Because it's evil. It can't win. The light is the light. Darkness is nothing more than the absence of the light. It's not a different thing. Okay? It's not. It's not. It cannot defeat. The light is the source of the darkness even. The darkness is just the absence of the light. Do you understand?
Right.
Okay. And Martin Luther King Jr., another pacifist of a different religious ilk, who inherited Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence, asserted his conviction that the universe is on the side of justice. I agree. The practice of Nichiren Buddhism, based on the essence of the Lotus Sutra, unlocks the infinite potential within each person's life. It holds the key to securing peace and happiness for ourselves and others. Let's hold our heads high and advance with confidence and joy. If you are without hope now, create hope. If you are without hope now, create hope. If you are unhappy now, create your own happiness. You be the sun, imparting sunshine to all around you. You be the Buddha. You watch other people become the Buddha in front of you. That you watch what happens. The eshofuni of your nature is more powerful than the eshofuni of any other nature. The heavenly deities and all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout the 10 directions and 3 existences will safeguard and protect the members of the SGI who are striving for Kosen Rufu as practitioners of the Lotus Sutra. He qualified that. Did you catch that? He didn't say, we'll safeguard and protect the members of the SGI just as the Daishonin teaches. He did not say that. He says, we'll protect the members of the SGI who are striving for Kosen Rufu as practitioners of the Lotus Sutra just as the Daishonin teachings. The members of the SGI who are of the same mind as Nichiren. Okay? The entire universe is our ally. Yeah. We have nothing to fear. That's the cool thing. Our lives are well springs of infinite value creation. We are entities of everlasting hope, dispelling the darkness of despair. Let us advance together, continuing our efforts to awaken those around us to that tremendous power, while always doing our best to encourage and support one another in our Buddhist practice. I am reminded of a poem that my mentor composed at the start of 1955 as he looked forward to future development of our movement for Kosen Rufu. This is from President Toda. Thank you. How'd you know, baby? The journey to propagate the mystic law is long. Let us encourage each other and advance together. The journey of Soka mentors and disciples, traversing countless hills and dales, has now reached this significant moment in the 21st century. An unprecedented grassroots network of hope and happiness has spread throughout the world. I firmly believe that all of our wise and noble members will continue to expand the encouraging and supportive realm of Soka, a great treasure of humanity, even more widely around the globe. Thank you very much. Sorry it took so long.
Thank you.
Thank you.